I back up just a couple spaces to help me understand, and not, it does impinge on therapy. So I think I remember you telling me that you were going to have a court date toward the end of October. And that, did you all, because you said just now that you don't have...
Right. It was supposed to be October 30th, but it was just put us on the trial calendar. So we're number 44. So I don't know when we may have a court date.
Oh, okay. So that's, because in my mind, I was thinking that something official, and then something that was set up regularly was going to begin to happen. And I was wondering what her behavior would be like in the month of November. Why I'm calling you is when we had our session, not yesterday, but 2 Thursdays ago, we went through probably 35 minutes. And toward the end of the session, Amora asked me, she said she wanted to dress up. So I was like, great. So she's dressed up as a little princess. She's holding this beautiful baby. And she said that. See, I didn't know if she was dreaming. She said the officers came, and she doesn't call him Dad. She said with Robert. She said the officers came with Robert, and they were banging on the door. And she, like, while telling me, and it was so, it kind of caught me off guard, Brianna, because it had nothing to do with our session. We were talking about our emotions and how do we regulate them and what are some little coping skills, because that's what I've been trying to give her each time we're together. And she each time we're together. And she started, I back up just a couple spaces to help me understand, and not, it does impinge on therapy. So I think I remember you telling me that you were going to have a court date toward the end of October. And that, did you all, because you said just now that you don't have...
Right. It was supposed to be October 30th, but it was just put us on the trial calendar. So we're number 44. So I don't know when we may have a court date.
Oh, okay. So that's, because in my mind, I was thinking that something official, and then something that was set up regularly was going to begin to happen. And I was wondering what her behavior would be like in the month of November. Why I'm calling you is when we had our session, not yesterday, but 2 Thursdays ago, we went through probably 35 minutes. And toward the end of the session, Amora asked me, she said she wanted to dress up. So I was like, great. So she's dressed up as a little princess. She's holding this beautiful baby. And she said that. See, I didn't know if she was dreaming. She said the officers came, and she doesn't call him Dad. She said with Robert. She said the officers came with Robert, and they were banging on the door. And she, like, while telling me, and it was so, it kind of caught me off guard, Brianna, because it had nothing to do with our session. We were talking about our emotions and how do we regulate them and what are some little coping skills, because that's what I've been trying to give her each time we're together. And she started, she wasn't physically shaking, but I saw in her face, like, so I was thinking, well, was she reliving that, like a dream prior when, before Robert had been out of the house, and was she remembering, like, the police officers? So he came with them?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. And you're saying that he misrepresented it to the police officers?
Yes, he said that we had a custody agreement, and we do not have a custody agreement. So at first I was trying to work with him through the parenting app, like I told you before when we last talked, and I was gonna push for him to get her every other weekend, but he wasn't getting her. He always said he had to work, so instead of it being about Amora, it became more of harassment for me. So I stopped responding in the app. And so now, I guess he found out about in Georgia, if you abandon your child for 30 days, you could go to jail or something like that. You get a warrant out for your arrest. And so I guess that's what made him come over here. But that wasn't a good idea for her. My idea of reintroducing him back into her life, I feel should be baby steps. I even feel that it should be maybe a session with him and her.
Yeah.
Because she's not ready for that.
No, because I know I've showed you these little, sometimes we'll do the little people, the family members, right? And so I don't want to draw too much attention to it. It's really interesting, but like just to, I don't know, I'm just going to hold them up. You can see like every family member is really like ornamentally decorated and colored. And then when it came to Dad, this is Dad. All he has is like 2 little crayon marks. And, you know, not much. Like, so it's evident that she doesn't feel like what she feels to Joshua and to you and Lauren. Like, and I think it's not, she doesn't feel connected. That's real obvious. And I think she definitely, it's just anxiety. So of course she doesn't want to be put in that. I agree with baby steps. I did want to ask you though that, and I'm sure maybe your lawyer, I just asked my supervisor, that if you felt that Robert being with Amora would be harmful to her therapeutic process, you could, because there's intimate partner violence in his history with you, and that's documented, right?
Yes.
That you could say he has to have court-ordered supervision. And you may want to discuss that with your lawyer. That you actually request that you say as her mother, you know, maybe that needs to be a part of the initial bringing Robert back into Amora's life, that there would be a court-ordered, that would be like a social worker, I guess, but I don't know, maybe DFACS would be a part of that, I don't know. But it's an option that I thought maybe you should be aware of.
Yeah.
For her protection, because I love the idea of what you said, it should be baby steps.
Yeah. Because I tried to tell him about like the anxiety and how she feels about him, but he thinks I'm lying and I'm manipulating her and I'm teaching her to be. I can't teach a 4-year-old to be afraid of her father. It's from what she saw.
No, and she's definitely like, she doesn't. So I know for you, I thought I'd let you know this too. As our sessions have evolved, every session seems to have the same, there's like a rhythm to it. She'll come in and she's a little timid. You know, she knows who I am and I know she's comfortable with me, but, you know, she's timid. She doesn't say a lot. She kind of waits to see. Sometimes I'll have an activity, like we'll do something with the family figures, or I've got those little spots of emotion and we'll talk about it. We'll identify things. That one time we tried to do her beautiful face. She doesn't talk a lot. She's not, it was funny to me when you said that at home she'll like order Isaac and around it. Get me this and I want that, because that's not the little wee one that I have the privilege of knowing. She's more, and of course, because I'm like an adult that's not an authority figure, but I'm not a family member. I understand. And that little ones respond differently, but it takes her around 15 minutes before she starts to warm up. And then she'll start her little imagination. And her creativity comes out, and sometimes she might be hosting, like she'll pick out these different objects and they represent family members or friends, and she wants to host a party. There's a lot of nurturing in her. That's a beautiful theme in her heart. Like we look for, we have a whole list of different themes that we look for in play, because when they typically respond regularly with the same themes, then we sort of know what's going on under the surface.
Right.
We can try to focus on that. For Amora, it's a lot of nurturing. There's always food involved. She's always going to feed someone. Even if it's like her baby, it's like there's always that sense that she is trying to express care, which is that's a very positive theme to see in a child's play. It's evidence of how you care for her and her siblings, how much they love her. But I will say that Robert is never a part of her play unless I try to introduce him. I did ask my supervisor, because I wanted to be sure that if I brought him in, that I wouldn't be re-traumatizing Amora, right? Because I didn't want to do that. But my supervisor, she's been a psychologist for over 30 years, so she has a lot of experience behind her credentials. But she said, no, Patricia, you can't re-traumatize her. She said, actually, the more she talks about that, the better, right? Because we want to externalize that. We want to get it out of Amora. So during our sessions, at least every session, I try to bring Robert in at least once.
Do you see the same shutdown experience that I see?
Yes. I will tell you that she's not, that's what I guess I wanted to mention to you. She never voluntarily brings him up. If I bring him up, sometimes I can get a little comment about him, but it's usually just a shutdown. Like, she has a figure. I'll say, oh, is that Robert? And usually she'll say no, and she'll put it aside. Or if it's yes, she might have him, but he's separate from the group, because I know that's how Amora, well, I can't say that I know it, but as her therapist, working with her for over 6 months, Amora's worldview just includes you and her siblings, and he is not a part of her worldview. He represents a name, right? Like a function, like dad. But I think the other reason why it might not be even as clear, I know you mentioned that your her half siblings, their father lives in North Carolina.
Right.
So they don't see him regularly either. So I think for Amora, in her stage of like mental development, there's not a dad on a daily basis. So I think it's easier for her to separate that concept anyway. You see what I mean? And so I think she's very comfortable with the way it is. And I know that, like, the purpose of therapy, you brought her to me. Like, I know it. I have the notes. I read them over and over. She's here to try to learn how to relate to Robert. So the more I try in our sessions to get her to open up, but I will say it's just hard. It's hard to get Amora to want to talk about it. So I've brought in, I do puppets with her. Sometimes we have different puppets. They're different characters. They have different looks. I'll pretend to be Robert, you know, and then I'll have Amora, or I'll ask Amora to just be herself with a puppet, and I'll be Robert, and see if I can get her to interact. And you know, she tries. I know because she, not that she wants to please me, but she wants to participate. Like she enjoyed the session, and so she's putting the effort in, but it's not something that she likes to do. So I will say I've tried to do a lot, or try to use the puppets. We've used the doll figures. I've used these, the ones that we made ourselves.
Do you think it's from her not seeing him at all, or do you think it's from what she saw as a baby with the abuse that she witnessed, that she has anxiety?
Right.
Because I tried the way you told me, like being excited about it. Oh, let's go. Let's call Daddy. Let's go to the trampoline park. He's gonna go buy you a toy, and it's always a shutdown. It's never. And she loves to go trampoline park. She loves to get toys. She wants a pony. So I'm like, well, let Daddy get it. And it's a shutdown. She does not. That her whole energy goes from being happy to down whenever his name is mentioned. And then the kids are going with their dad for Christmas. So I even brought that up to her and said, Amora, they're going with their daddy. How about you go to your dad's house? And it was still, no, I want to be with mommy. I don't want to go with him. So just looking back at stuff, because I have videos from my divorce, but just looking back and seeing her in my arms and he's busting through the door screaming and yelling, or she may have seen him drag me across the floor, I feel like that plays a part. It's not just my dad is gone, because my kids, when they were growing up and they didn't see their dad, whenever they saw them, they would be happy. Whenever Amora his name is mentioned, she's shaking and she's crying and she's no.
She's been traumatized.
Yeah,
like that was traumatic. Like that's definitely a fair. Like Amora, IPV, for a child to witness IPV while their emotions and their mental, they're developing, like that was a trauma. She's traumatized. Like that's why I try to, but I mean, that's the whole point of therapy. Like I admire you so much as her mother, that you love her enough to recognize that she needs, this doesn't come up in school. Like it won't happen like in church Sunday, like I don't know, whatever, I don't know if you go, but like in a Sunday CCD or school or Girl Scouts or whatever, like this, there's no place for this to come out. Like it's got to come out like in therapy, or I don't know where else you would do it, but we've got to get it out of her. And that's what That's the whole point. Like, when you work with a child who's been traumatized, and that's how I look at Amora, that she was diagnosed with adjustment disorder conduct, but she has an adjustment disorder because she has been traumatized. She has intense anxiety associated with her father because of what she saw.
Right.
And remember, you're so right. It's that Brianna, like, she was actually learning something pre-verbal, right? That was pre-verbal learning. That's just learning from observation. And that is so real for a baby, because babies don't learn by speaking. Right. Babies learn by seeing and feeling and hearing. And so her senses that were so alive to that horrible experience for you, like, she took it all in. And so that's why I keep trying to, I want to get it out, right? But she resists. And that's natural, because it's scary. You don't want to take it back out. So when she told me voluntarily last week, like, I cried and I called my supervisor. And I just said, Dr. Amanda, I can't believe it. It's been 6 months. And Amora just told me. I said, out of the blue, it wasn't even part of what we were doing in session. I was, oh my God, Trish, it's that breakthrough you've been waiting for. But yes, the breakthrough that she trusted me enough to tell me, and I love that she did. But then again, this week, when I tried to touch on it again, I got the same resistance. I got that desire shut down. So I guess I want you to know, I know that you might think, well, why do I keep bringing her? Which, that's okay to say that.
No, she's excited because every day she asks when I pick her up, are we going to therapy today? Are we going to therapy? So she loves coming. So whatever it takes for her, I don't care if it takes 2-3 years. I just want my baby to be healthy and have an environment that she can get to a place, because that is scary for me whenever court does come. And I have to hand my screaming baby over to someone she's afraid of.
Right. I know. And I mean, I hear it in your voice. I do want you to know that I've gone into my staff room crying, thinking about that. And so that's the advice I got from my supervisor about talking about court-ordered supervision. You have the right to request that, because, you know, you're going to introduce the fact that your daughter's been in therapy, that she is in therapy. See, I can't, we don't go to court. I can't appear for her, but you can certainly, you know, we have release of information. Maybe we could get documents. I'm not sure if you need it, but you have the right to say, my daughter's been in therapy for 6 months now because of the anxiety that she has experienced, because of what she's seen. And I don't want to, that would be such an intense setback. She would not, you are absolutely right. As her mother, you love her more than anyone else. You know her better than anyone else. But just the 6 months that I've known and come to love, and I can honestly say I love your daughter. But I agree with you that would be extremely harmful to her, to just have to go back with him with no support, because you are her comfort. Lauren is her comfort. I see it. Like, that's why I wanted to build up Lauren 2 weeks ago when we were there, you know, and I just wanted Lauren to realize, like, her love for Amora is it's a support. Now, I don't know if she, you know, lords it over the three, but it's important. Like, I know as your mom, you must let them know, like, they meet a need that Amora doesn't have with Robert. Like, they fulfill a need of safety that sometimes a parental figure, a father figure, you know, in a perfect world, they would help you feel safe, and they typically protect you, right? And he doesn't. And so it's almost like Joshua, and they help you in that role. And it's a beautiful thing that they do. I've seen their beautiful faces. Your children are beautiful. But you can see the goodness inside of them coming out. I guess, try to affirm that with them, that they're actually a part of her healing journey, right? The more they love her, not give in to her, but the more they just love her and affirm her, the better. But I think, Brianna, what you're sharing with me about, if she were to go see, that would not be good for her to see, especially now that he's come with those offers. Right. How was it that you were able to shut that down? How did that?
Because he didn't have any paperwork, so the police officer said that we would have to go to court. He would have to go to court for that issue.
Oh, thank God. So the officer found out that it was a ruse. Like, by the time he got there and realized Robert couldn't produce anything, he realized it was a lie. Okay. All right. And you think maybe it was motivated more because he heard something about if you've abandoned your child?
Right. But I don't care about that because she doesn't want to see him at all.
Right. And you're not leveraging that. Right. You're not acting like I'm going to press charges against you.
Right. Yeah. My main thing is
I don't want you to see him.
Right. My main thing is she's not ready. And I would not feel good just sending her off that. The way she was shaking when she knew he was at that door.
Yeah.
I mean, one time we were in the parking lot because I'm just trying different things to see how I can introduce him. So we're in the parking lot, and you know how kids run out the car and when we get ready to go into a place. So she was running around screaming, playing, ha, ha, ha. I said, Amora, there's your dad. She said, ha, ha, ha. Just started screaming and crying as if I said Freddy Krueger was in the parking lot. Like I had to keep telling her, it's okay, he's not here for about 10 minutes before she calmed down.
Oh, like almost hyperventilating.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh.
So.
Bless her little heart. Maybe, you know what? Maybe, Brianna, you're such a loving mom. It's so beautiful. Like, you've got so many, you're trying so hard, in so many different ways. But maybe because she's still having such averse responses to even the thought. And now that was really, honestly, that was really ill-timed for Robert to do that. Like that was really bad. Maybe why don't we just try to continue? I'm just going to try to move forward, if it's okay with you, those treatment goals. The idea of trying to externalize the trauma, get that anxiety out of her. When children are around her age, by the time they're 6 or 7, they can get too used to their anxiety. They can get too comfortable with it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's exactly what we don't want. We don't want Amora to become an anxious child. And know that she's not, right? The beautiful thing, I want you to hear me say that. She does not have like generalized anxiety. It's very specific. It's Robert. And there's a reason for it, and she's witnessed it, right? But the therapy that I see with Amora is that we've got to get, number one, the trauma out of her. We've got to externalize it because it's been internalized since she was an infant. So we got to draw it out so that she can see it and then start to feel like it's hard for a 4-year-old to feel like they have control over something, right? Especially that. And that would be, as I'm working with her, that's like a further step down the road. Like, how do we feel I have some control over this relationship with this person who has frightened me so much? And there's ways we do that, coping skills, therapeutic things, so we can do that too. So that when she's like 6 or 7, we don't ever want, like I said, like an anxiety to feel like it's generalized into everything. So that that's going to be how I respond to, testing in school or a struggle with my peer group. Like we don't want that, but I don't think it would because it's not in her nature. Like, I don't know sometimes if you can hear her when she starts to giggle. Brianna, it's the most beautiful. She doesn't do it until around 20, 25 minutes into the session, but then she's And she's such a widow skinny, you know, and her whole body kind of got, and she'll just, oh, it's those moments, like, that's why I'm a counselor. Like, I do it for moments like that, because it's such a privilege to be a part of that, like helping a little person just experience that freedom and that joy. I guess so. Yes, I agree. And I would say to you, maybe not try to do any more exposure for a while, since it's just not it's probably having more harmful effects on her for now. Maybe let's not do that. And if you would do me a favor and just tuck into your mind, I've circled here, number 44. So on, let's say, like 11/1 of 23, you guys are number 44 in the docket. So it could be months, is what you're saying to me before, right? But just make sure. I'm sure, like legal fees, it's all a lot. But if you could pursue that idea with your lawyer and just say, what about like court-ordered supervision in the beginning, and see, I think that would help Amora, because I do believe that she will not, Robert would be a fool. I mean, he would be a fool to think that he can just show up one day and buy a happy child. It doesn't work like that. And I know he's got his own stuff and he's working through his own stuff. So I'm not trying to look like I'm not judging him as a person, but we do need to call it out. Like, it's what you said. I used to do the parenting app. I'm going to summarize, but you said I used to use the parenting app because I was really trying to get him back together with Amora. But then it became all about him and his schedule, and he was just trying to harass me. And that's the problem, is that you're her mother, and you love her enough to want the best for her. And right now, Robert's actions bringing those police officers to the door, it's more about him. Like, that just evidence that he's not thinking what's best for this little girl. So, yeah. Well, do you have, I don't know, thank God that we had this opportunity to talk. I'm really grateful. Do you have any other, as we're speaking, any other thoughts or suggestions for me?
No, I just think that I've just been trying everything that I could possibly try, especially things that I know she loved, and it's just been a whole rejection. And me communicating to him about the therapy sessions is all a joke. You're teaching her to be scared of me. You're teaching her to be afraid. You're teaching her to shut down and cry. I cannot teach a 4-year-old to have anxiety. So he doesn't take this seriously at all. So
no, because it's not, it's not the response that he wants. That's got to be so hard to navigate. That's a lot for you. Do you have a person you can confide in? Get advice? Your dad?
I started back doing therapy myself. So,
good. Awesome. Because this is a lot for you to carry. You're the mother to 4 children. You're a single mom. That's a lot of work. And then you've got a little one with a whole other, avenue of issues that you're trying to address. I'm glad to hear that you're back into, something for you. Okay. I did want to ask you, Amora, she hasn't, besides the shaking, has she had any other regressive behaviors? Like, has she had any trouble with toileting or wanting to crawl is she still getting into Lauren's bed or anything?
It's either Lauren's bed or my bed.
Okay. All right. So maybe that just has kept up. Because it's been such a big thing for her. Okay. All right. I'm taking notes to kind of like, it helps me. All of this stuff is important. I am really glad though for you personally, Brianna, that you've gotten into therapy again.
Thank you.
Will you be able to see your dad? I know you love him, but he's in North Carolina. Would you be able to maybe take Amora and see your dad? Since
he just left. Actually, he came for Thanksgiving, so.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's good. That's super that you guys had that, because it's a little bit of it's nice to have another adult in the house.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot, 24/7, 365.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess if you don't have any more questions, if you're comfortable with the way I conceptualize the treatment and the goals I have for her moving forward, that's really what that's what we do. That's what I try to do. And yes, she is resistant, not because she's not a loving, precious person, but because it's just so deep.
Yeah.
But I just keep at it, because that's the whole point. Like, that's why she comes. I love to see her. I love it when it's important that she comes. Yeah. Okay. I guess just for you to know, for freedom's sake, like for holidays, you're free if you need to cancel. Because I know Christmas is Monday, but you guys come on a Thursday, and I'm working that Thursday if you want to come. But if you want to take a break or whatever, I will be gone Thursday.
I do red.
Boo, 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 boo.
I go first.
Okay, you go first. Let me go second.